Good morning, everybody. As you guys are joining this morning, I just want to say welcome. I'm Gina Collinsworth, OVRDC Public Information Coordinator, and we have everybody on screen today. We really have a lot of great information to share with you about our programs and an orientation of what we do here at OVRDC. But our goal today is just to make sure that everyone has their questions answered and we share information with you about our programs. We're excited about the work we do at Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission. And we'll just go ahead and get it going this morning with our Executive Director, John Hemmings.
Thank you, Gina. And thanks everyone for joining us this morning. We hope that this is informative for you. And I just want to give a real quick overview in case people don't completely understand OVRDC and what we are, why we're here, then really let the staff get into the programs, which is what you really want to probably hear about. So OVRDC, Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission, we were established in 1967. Under the Ohio Revised Code, legally we are a public regional planning commission in the state of Ohio under section 71321 of the Revised Code. You see there our statement of what that's kind of our mission statement. We're a regional planning and economic development agency coordinating federal, state, and local resources for development in our 12 counties. And of course, our 12 counties are listed there at the bottom. Go ahead to the next slide, Shannon. We have a staff of 10. We are short right now. We had a departure last December, and we're working on filling that position. Should have that taken care of soon. So there you see our 9 staff, and you're going to meet many of them today. I think, Gina, at the end, we need to have some of the ones who aren't speaking at least show themselves and introduce themselves. So help me to remember that at the end. But we do work in Waverly, Ohio. Our office is here in Waverly. Those are the staff, and like I said, you're going to get to meet several of those as we move forward today. Go ahead to the next slide. Now, we're designated by several entities for different tasks. And when I said we started in 1967, we started because the Economic Development Administration was started out of the War on Poverty legislation of the late 60s, and so was the Appalachian Regional Commission. So they designated districts throughout for EDA throughout the United States and for the Appalachia region of the 13 states of Appalachia districts there. So we serve as an economic development district for those 12 counties you saw, and a local development district, just different language for the ARC counties, which are all of our member counties except for Fayette. Now, in 2015, we became a regional transportation planning organization for the area we serve, except for Clermont and the part of Lawrence County that's in the urban metro area. And that actually started in 2013, but the actual designation as officially an RTPO came in 2015. We also act as a liaison for District 15 of the Ohio Public Works Commission. So we do that for the State Capital Improvement Program. And just recently, we took on the Natural Resource Advisory Council, being the liaison for that. And then we're a regional data center affiliated with the Ohio Department of Development. And that was in the 1980s sometime. Before I came, I know it was in the 80s, gained that designation. Our membership in OVRDC, we have a full commission, and that comes from our 12 counties. And there's a total of 167 members. So when we have caucus meetings in the county, those people on the front of that sheet, for those of you that are familiar with our caucus meetings, those are our full commission members. Those members are invited twice a year to our annual meetings, semi-annual meetings, I should say. The one in March is our annual election of officers. And in September, it's an appreciation banquet that we do in appreciation for our members and their service. Any county, based on what the bylaws say, will have 13 to 16 members, and the caucus and the full commission in each county caucus helps us update our membership, and they select from that membership of the county who they want to serve on the executive committee from the county. And they also, as I said up above, that March meeting, which is coming up in about 3 weeks, they will vote on our officers and the executive committee members that are being entrusted to run the business of OVRDC. The executive committee is 32 members. And as I said, the full commission elects a caucus chairman from each county. Then we have 12 non-elected members from the membership that are on the board. We select a minority member from the region. And then the mayors from one city in each county that has a city, and then our officers make up that executive committee. The officers are chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, and I as executive director serve as the secretary of OVRDC. And really the authority of OVRDC rests in its executive committee. So really the decision-making body is the executive committee. Their roles include reviewing and approving all necessary actions for our organization, positions on key legislation. They help us with ranking and recommending the EDA projects and ARC projects that we submit up to those federal and state agencies for funding consideration. And any grant, contract, or application that we do over 10,000, I have to always seek executive committee approval. That's either in expense or in receipt. So anytime we're receiving funds, we're expending funds in excess of 10,000, we take those to the executive committee. The executive committee meets at least 6 times annually, and that's generally on the 4th Thursday of the month. And I cannot see, there's something down there, I cannot see it because the way my screen's looking, but there's something at the bottom. I just want to say, kind of in conclusion on this, that gives you a real high level overlook of OVRDC. But I want you to understand, to be involved and to work with us, you do not have to be a member of the full commission or executive committee. I've had people in the past ask me, hey, how do I get on your board? Well, the bylaws dictate our board. I can't just handpick members of our board. It's dictated by those bylaws. So, but you don't have to be on that membership to get assistance through our organization. There are committees on which you can serve beyond that. We have a project review committee, Revolving Loan Fund, Transportation, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, and others that certainly are opportunities. You can also work with the OVRDC and be involved by applying for the grants that you're going to hear about later, the business loans, and also just receiving information. We put out e-newsletters often with grant opportunities, training events, things like that. So you can certainly take advantage of those things despite not being a full commission or executive committee member. So we want your engagement. We want you to reach out to the staff or myself. Today, I think this is going to give you a good chance to see the faces, put a face with the name and of who is working on each of our programs here and who you need to contact so you get that direct assistance with the right staff person. So you can always go to our website, and Gina keeps that updated really well for us so that information on there is pretty current, and we try to keep that up to date as best we can, but just like anything, things slip, you get busy. But I do know, I look on there and a lot of times it's very current. So with that, I will turn it over to Jessica Keaton, who is going to speak about the Appalachian Regional Commission program. And again, thank you for participating today. And certainly, if you have questions, feel free to ask them to us, throw them in the chat box, or when we take time to take Q&A, just raise your hand. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you all here today. We've got great attendance this morning. So I want to introduce the ARC programs. These are kind of, our banner programs that began in the 1960s. We work with 2 major programs, although I will mention quickly that ARC has a few other programs too, but those will be mentioned later briefly. But the 2 that we do the most technical assistance with are the power program and then the regular process programs that ARC puts on, like area development, access road, and distressed counties. So with that, I'll just get into the power program a little bit. So next slide. So power is actually a program that doesn't run directly through OVRDC, but we can offer some technical assistance with, and we work with the Governor's Office of Appalachia and the two consultants that they have on staff to offer deeper technical assistance than we do. So power programs are, larger grants than typically what the regular process programs are, but eligibility. Units of government, nonprofits, higher ed, your typical entities are eligible for that. Types of projects, you can do planning projects for up to $50,000 through the power program, or you can do implementation projects. And the target award for implementation projects for power are anywhere from $400,000 to $1.5 million. Now, the only exception to that is broadband. So if you have an implementation project for broadband, you can actually request up to $2.5 million for that. And the RFP for that was just released a few days ago. You can find that at arc.gov. You can email us or get a hold of the two consultants who are available for technical assistance to the Governor's Office of Appalachia. That is Jay Bennett and Brenda Haas. They are fantastic partners, and they are just wonderful at helping you through the entire power process. So if you're interested in power, you can reach out directly to them if you have their information. If not, you can get a hold of us and we will send you in the right direction. So next slide, please. I'll just move into the regular process programs here. Those consist of area development, access road, and distressed counties programs. So all ARC projects have to fit into the strategic plan, which consists of 5 goals, and that's any other projects across the board, including power. And their 5 goals are building Appalachian businesses, which is like financing businesses, RLF, any sort of activity that supports the creation or expansion of economic development, jobs, revenues, things like that. The second one is building Appalachia's workforce ecosystem. So these are, typically our equipment projects for educational institutions, childcare, anything that helps strengthen the workforce in Appalachia. Number 3 is building Appalachia's infrastructure. So these are, our more typical projects that we've done historically. These are going to be road, water, sewer, broadband, all those types of things. Number 4 is building regional culture and tourism. So tourism is kind of a new area. It's not really that new, but it's more of a focus area for ARC now. So any sort of program or project that supports the growth of our tourism economy, because of the, all of the sectors in our region, tourism is one of the few that, with our aging population and the resources that we have, it's expected to grow. So ARC wants to do everything that they can to support tourism. Number 5 is building leaders and community capacity. So that's, basically just building support in the community. So if your project fits in any one of those 5 goal areas, and there are objectives under those goals, if you go to look at the strategic plan, you'll get a little bit more information than I've given you here. But basically, ARC is pretty flexible. So if you have a project, and it's doing any kind of economic or community development, you're dealing with workforce or enhancing the economy in some way, chances are you're going to be able to fit that into the ARC strategic plan. Now, eligibility, same as power, units of government, educational institutions, nonprofits, things like that. Grant rates are going to apply across most ARC programs as well. So your grant rate is determined by a number of economic indicators in your individual county. These eligibility or these grant rates range anywhere from 80% for distressed counties to 0% for an attainment county, which means you're not eligible for ARC funding. We do not have any attainment counties within the OVRDC region. Clermont is competitive, which is the next step up, meaning they're eligible for 30% funding. We have some transitional counties that are eligible for 50%, and that's total project costs. And most of our counties are considered at risk, which is a 70% grant rate. So if you have a $100,000 project, that means you're eligible to apply for $70,000, and you have to come up with match funding from other sources or out of your own pocket of $30,000. Funding availability. These regular process programs and the power program are competitive. But ARC has been a beneficiary of the infrastructure bill. So they received $1 billion to expend over 5 years. So we haven't heard officially. So, keep your ear to the ground for that news. Sign up for our newsletter if you haven't to get the latest updates. But we are expecting that, out of that $200 million per year, that they will likely be spending most or, at least some of that money to increase the number and size of projects that we can do for ARC. So next slide, please. For our regular process programs like area development, access road, and distressed counties. And I should mention that distressed counties is only available to distressed counties, but we kind of lump everything in together. Now, access road, you're going to have to, indicate if that is the program that you're going for. But if you're in a distressed county, we will automatically put you in for distressed counties funding for that competitive pot of money. Currently, we only have one distressed county, which is Adams. But anyway, we take those applications in. We do a pre-application. Those go to me. We have a grassroots process where we do prioritization at the county and regional level, take those to the state. They give their okay, and then we come back and invite you for full applications. So technical assistance and project planning, no question is too small. I want to encourage everybody out there listening today that, if you think you might even have a project, please reach out. We'll work with you to determine whether or not your project is eligible and, maybe strategies that you can use to make your project eligible some way. We like to get creative and find solutions to these problems. We want to help your organizations and your communities. So please, no question is too small. I really am a big believer in that there are no dumb questions, and our pre-application deadline is going to be May 20th, and those pre-application materials are available on our website at ovrdc.org/ARC. So with that, question.
Hey, Jess.
Yeah.
We did have a question, and I want to just encourage everyone once again, as we're going through the sections, if you have a question, as Jess says, no question is the wrong question. We all have questions. So one that came up, what specific type of tourism projects are being prioritized? And can you give us an example?
Well, there's not anything really specific that they are prioritizing. I would say the more that you're regionalizing, they really like those kind of things. We can do, infrastructure. You can tie that to tourism, business development that you could tie to tourism. If you're 501c3 and, you're operating some sort of tourism asset and you need some piece of equipment to increase your visitorship, which is going to in turn raise revenues for the businesses that surround that asset. That's an example of something that you could apply for. So, and tourism is still a little bit new as far as, ARC projects, things that we've been doing. I would say if you have an idea, reach out, let's talk about it.
Sounds good. All right, Jess, I guess we're moving on then. That was the only question right at this moment. Moving on to the next section. I think you have that too.
I do. That's the EDA program. So EDA, we like to say, does not stand for easy dough available. It is a little bit of a heavier lift as far as application than ARC, and there are multiple programs that fall under the EDA umbrella. That includes public works and economic adjustment assistance and assistance to coal communities, which is similar to ARC's power program. These are all geared toward the recovery of the coal economy, that downturn that we've been experiencing. And then EDA also has CARES programs and ARPA programs through, the recovery funding that was passed over the past few years. So Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance is really kind of the typical program that we work with through EDA. Number one, for this program or any other program with the EDA, you need to be on OVRDC's SEDS for your project to be eligible, typically. Now, CARES and ARPA have some special conditions, but you should still have your project on our SEDS. Application process. You go through grants.gov directly to apply for EDA funding. You do not technically need to involve us or the EDA economic development representative to the state to apply. However, I would highly encourage anyone who is thinking about EDA to reach out, because you're going to be a lot more successful if you coordinate with us and coordinate with the EDR. And like I said, you need to be on our SEDS anyway to be eligible. So eligibility and grant rates. Clermont is unfortunately not targeted for this program because their economic indicators are high enough that EDA is determined that they don't need the assistance. They're targeting more needy counties. So Vinton is currently at a 60% grant rate for these regular programs through EDA, these typical programs that we work with. All the other OVRDC counties are 50%, except in special circumstances. So next slide, please. Everyone with the SEDS or a strategic plan is eligible for CARES and ARPA funds. That means that, these special programs are extremely competitive because they've removed that requirement. It also means that big cities that have more capacity, like, the Columbuses and the Cincinnatis and Clevelands of the world, are eligible to apply for EDA programs when, before they couldn't really access that. Like, Clermont is not eligible, so they weren't targeted for the funding. So that means it's even more important if you want to pursue CARES or ARPA funding through EDA that you reach out to us to make your projects stronger. So there are multiple initiatives within each program. We've seen everything from typical public works projects to tourism to planning to huge regional challenges. And not everyone is eligible for all of these programs. And due to the popularity of some of the programs, like I said, because everyone is eligible, some grant portals may be closed early. A good example of that is the tourism program that I know a lot of people were really interested in. They actually shut down that grant portal the week before, or maybe 2 weeks ago, because of the extreme interest in it. They've just gotten such a heavy load of applications that they went ahead and stopped taking proposals early. So that is why it is a great idea to check with us first before moving forward with any program too, because we can help you avoid a wild goose chase, because we typically hear things because we're in close contact with Ellen Hines, the EDR for Ohio, if those things are going to happen before they actually happen. So next slide, please. So best practices, I keep harping this over and over, but first step, contact us. Your project needs to be on the SEDS, and I keep repeating those things because they are just so important to your projects. We can help you make a determination on which program might be the best fit for your needs. And we will also coordinate with the state EDR, Ellen, and introduce you to her. She is super helpful. All the projects we've brought to her, she's been great. She may even come out and physically visit your project if that's an option. She's always willing to look over proposals and ideas and offer her feedback, which is invaluable because EDA can be, like I said, kind of a heavy lift, kind of picky with their applications. So you want to make sure that before you put all that work in, that you're doing the right things, and you're wording things the way they want, and you're getting them the information that they're really looking for. So if you have an idea for EDA, and I should mention, I forgot to put this in the slideshow, EDA it is a heavy lift because you're typically talking about multi-million-dollar grants here. So if you have a big project you think you need EDA for us, again, reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you about it. So with that, are there any questions about the EDA program?
We just had one from Scioto County wanting to know for sure what the grant rate was for ARC funding, and John answered in the question in the chat box 50% for EDA is 50%, right, Jess?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, and ARC for Scioto County is 70.
Right, and I should mention too that some of the special programs in EDA and Power actually through ARC, you're eligible for 80%. And specifically in EDA, if there is a special need, it's published in their notice of funding opportunities that you may even be able to go up to 100%. But I have been told that that does not happen anywhere except for tribal organizations. So if you read that, don't necessarily believe it.
Had one more question pop up. Is the application online?
It is online. All the NOFOs are available on EDA's website through eda.gov, and all of their applications are submitted through grants.gov. We just suggest that you reach out to us first. You know, you think you have an idea, go check out the NOFOs on EDA before you open up a project on grants.gov for that. Reach out to us. Ellen has been kind enough to supply a list of information that she initially looks for in projects to make an initial determination of whether or not your project is a good fit for EDA. So we'll send you that list of items that she looks for. You can respond to that, and that is when we will connect you with her and get the ball rolling.
I think when I first got started in grants, I would just want to say, you know, the human element is always important. So even though applications are online, like you said, Jess and John, reach out to us and try to connect with people like Ellen Hines, who is the rep for EDA. So there's a personal relationship.
Yeah, and EDA is a fantastic opportunity, especially for larger projects that have a lot of economic impact. But their notice of funding opportunities can be very long. So that is a lot of information to take in. And day out, we work with these programs, and we're here to help you kind of decipher what those NOFOs are really saying.
Gina, I want to just jump in and add something to what Jessica said. And if she said it, I apologize. I was listening, but maybe I didn't hear say it. One thing Jessica said about talking to us, and she said it, you can go to grants.gov, you can go without ever talking to us. But the problem you run into is once you hit submit on grants.gov, EDA, their staff, Ellen, that we're speaking of, can no longer assist you with the project. It's kind of like you've called the play, you've ran the play, you deal with the consequences. So, and it's the worst thing I think you can do with EDA is submit something that they say no to, and then try to come back and correct it at a later date. It's better to get it right the first time. And that's the only reason we're really pushing the consultation, because we can assist you, and then we can bring Ellen in to assist up until you hit submit on grants.gov. At that point, Ellen cannot help you anymore. She has to go look at it. And now I'm a reviewer, not a helping hand providing technical assistance. So that is why that is so key. And I appreciate Jessica emphasizing that. We're not trying to get in the way. We're trying to help you with this. So.
Yeah, and it is imperative because of how competitive, especially these ARPA and CARES programs are. So that is a fantastic point, John.
Thank you, Jess. And I was going to mention there are quite a few anachronisms we use and a lot of abbreviations. So if I hear one, I'll try to drop it in the chat. But NOFO means notice of funding. So there'll be quite a few of those. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is the Ohio Public Works Commission with our Development Director, Kim Reynolds.
Thank you, Gina. As John mentioned earlier, we are the District 15 liaison for Ohio Public Works Commission, which was established in 1987. Those counties that are eligible are all of OVRDC's counties with the exception of Clermont. And there's 19 districts in the state of Ohio. So Clermont is part of Ohio Public Works. They're just not covered in our district. The programs that's offered is the State Capital Improvement Program. Those are county, city, villages, and townships. Sanitary sewer district, water and sewer districts are also eligible if they meet certain requirements. And then there's also the Ltip program. And you'll hear Jessica or Gina alluded to acronyms. You'll hear the State Capital Improvement called SCIP most of the time, which it stands for the State Capital Improvement Program. And then the Ltip, which is the Local Transportation Improvement Program. Those eligible are counties, cities, villages, and townships. And then we also have the small government, which is any village or township that has a population of 5,000 or less. Those types of projects that are eligible for SCIP and small governments, it's public roads, bridges, culverts, water supply, wastewater, solid waste, and stormwaters. And the projects has to have a minimum useful life of 8 years to be considered for SCIP, and there is no useful life requirement for small governments. Grants, repair, replacement are eligible for 90% of the total project cost, and if it's a new construction, they're eligible for 50%. Each district is allowed to put the interest rate for the loans that we have, and we typically, our district gets around $2 million in loan allocation, and we do have a 0% interest rate for the useful life of the project, which now has been increased to 30 years. So you can finance a project for 0% for up to 30 years. And there is no early payment penalty if you pay it off early. They also offer loan assistance, which is where OPWC will pay the interest expenses on the money from other sources. So if you got an EPA loan that had interest rate, you can use that money to pay back the interest rate during the construction, plus a year after that. We also have the Ltip, which is for roads, bridges, and culverts, and they must they're required to have a useful life of at least 8 years. The process is that typically, I know when COVID started, this was a little different, but projects will start with the projects within the district compete against each other for funding, but they first are rated at the county level. And then once the county reviews those, they will give them points on the way they ranked, and then they send them to OVRDC, and I'll rank the projects, and they have 3 chances to be funded. They'll be rated using the SCIP guidelines first. If they are not eligible and do not meet funding for SCIP and they're a road or bridge project, then they'll be considered under Ltip. And then we have the small government program, which is for those townships and villages that did not get funded under those 2 programs. The only difference with the small government program is we are not given an allocation at the district. So we will rank the projects and submit the top 5 projects, and then they will be re-rated, and they compete statewide for Ohio Public Works small government funding. The announcements are normally made, except for the COVID year. Those announcements are made and awarded in July. Typically, they'll have an announcement if you've been funded at the end of June, sometime in the beginning of June, but the money is available July 1. And we are currently in round 36 of funding. We just completed our meeting yesterday for the projects to be submitted to Ohio Public Works. And I would also like to add that in the past years, the applications was done with a physical copy, but now there's a WorkWise portal, and applicants will apply through the portal for funding. This is the first year for it. And our district still accepts the paper applications, and I'm not sure if the committee will approve to do that again this round, but in the past, that's the way it's always been. And as far as deadlines, OPW or District 15 has established that the first Friday in October, applications are due to the county for their review. And then the county has 2 weeks to review those applications and then submit to OVRDC for consideration. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
So far, no questions on OPWC, but one thing I wanted to ask, didn't they move their office, Kim, OPWC?
They're still working remotely, but yes, their physical office location has moved.
Thank you, Kim. If anybody has questions later that they think of for the Ohio Public Works Commission, we'll have a Q&A at the end and you can ask then. And we'll move on to our next section, which is the Clean Ohio program with our research and planning specialist, Jacob Taylor. Hi, Jacob. Good morning.
Morning. Clean Ohio is the program that is through the Natural Resource Advisory Council, NRAC. So often kind of terms are used interchangeably. And the Clean Ohio is a green space conservation program. Is a program dedicated to environmental conservation, including the acquisition of green space and the protection and enhancement of river and stream corridors. Grant recipients agree to maintain the properties in perpetuity so that they can be enjoyed and cherished for generations to come. The Clean Ohio program is primarily dedicated to the purchase of or acquirement of easements on properties. And then there's a Riparian Corridor program. Those are the two main sort of programs that you can do in the Clean Ohio under the Clean Ohio grant. As Kim said before, this is an Ohio Public Works program. So our district map is the same as hers. There's no major changes or any changes from the Ohio Public Works program. We're District 15, which you can see in the green down at the bottom. Amongst the eligible projects for this program, there's, as I said, open space acquisition, which is either the purchase of the property or an easement. And these projects can be done for the purpose of purchasing parks, forests, wetlands, and other natural areas. These areas have to be maintained as natural areas. They can't be turned into a park or ball fields, though they can be accessed by, and they're encouraged to be accessed by the public. The other part is riparian corridors. You can use the Riparian Corridor program as a purchasing program, or you can do it as an improvement on an already existing riparian corridor that you own or your agencies own. And the Riparian Corridor program is unlike the open space acquisition program, which is a lot more flexible in how you can use the money. But the Riparian Corridor is focused on the riverway and preserving the water quality and enhancing or protecting or stabilizing the surrounding banks and immediate surroundings of the river itself. The improvements on Clean Ohio acquisition is an important part of this. It's a major factor in many of the applications, and it's to be eligible for improvements, which are bike paths, trails, kiosk signs, and even putting in parking for an area, has to be done through either the acquisition program, and that which means you have to have to access all the eligible improvements. You have to have purchased and owned the property. There are limited improvements that you can do on an easement, but to really access the improvement funds, you need to have ownership of the program through the Clean Ohio program. For these projects, you can get up to a 75% grant, and match can come from different sources, meaning it doesn't just have to be cash. It could be in-kind match. And last year we were allocated $2,228,536, which is pretty consistent over the last couple of years. We'll probably get we'll probably get about that much with a little bit of carryover usually. And just an important note, camping and most of any sort of structure being built on the Clean Ohio Clean Ohio lands is ineligible. We have a link at the bottom. You can go to PWC, which is the Ohio Public Works website, and go to their Clean Ohio application for more information, or you can go to OVRDC and find our Clean Ohio Green Space program. If you have any questions, you can please let me know, or you can contact me through email or phone.
Sounds good. I put the link to our OVRDC Clean Ohio program page in the chat box. But Jacob, real quick, just tell us one or two projects that come to mind to showcase a little bit on like an example level of what the Clean Ohio program can do in our region.
Let's see, the last round we had a nature preserve, purchased land in Adams County. It was around a gorge, and it's getting purchased now. Or there was a bit of with the transfer through WorkWise, it was a bit of held up. And then then there's also the purchase of Trimper Mound a few years back. Programs like that. Usually preservation of forested land. The program's a little harder, the scoring's a little more relaxed, or there's extra points if you're within the city and you want to make or a developed area and you want to make a Clean Ohio purchase. But because of the requirements of the program and the preference of the district, they will it could be a bit tougher. So we haven't had any city programs, and applications usually are in February, or due at the end of February, with scoring and the project and the application decisions being done usually by the end of March.
Sounds good. I like the Clean Ohio program and I like working with you on it. It feels like a good thing for the region. And also a question you mentioned, I want to make this clear again. The land is still used publicly, correct?
Yes. If you can make it unavailable to the public, but that's almost certainly not going to score high enough through the NRAC to be funded.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Jacob? If not, we're going to move on to our next section. And always remember at the end of we have time too. Next is special initiatives, and John Hemmings is back to talk about that.
Thank you, Gina. You know, navigating, you've heard a lot so far, and you're going to hear a little more later too about applying for grants. And a lot of what you've heard from Jessica, mostly, I guess you would say, not so much with what Kim presented or Jacob presented, but getting the grant, sometimes, you know, you feel like that's the difficult part, but it might be the easiest part of the grant, you find out, because with a grant, you have several state laws, if it's a state grant, that you have to follow. Then if it's a federal grant, there are rules and regulations guiding that as well, about how you go about managing that project. And so like I said, when writing the grant, receiving it, you're elated, you're happy, but now the task is before you to implement it. And sometimes you may not at the local level have the know-how or expertise to navigate those waters. And OVRDC does provide administrative services via contract for the ARC grants, Economic Development Administration, as well as HUD Community Development Block Grant construction projects. And those are made upon request to us by either the funding agency, or sometimes the funding agency will ask us, you know, if we fund this, will you administer it? Sometimes the local community or organization feels they need our help in navigating those waters, and we can certainly help with that. So as you're developing the projects, that's something you want to take into mind is, do we need to add into the budget that we submit an administrative cost line item? And we can certainly discuss that ahead of the grant if you feel like you need that from us. We do not require, there's no requirement. EDA would be the closest thing to being an entity that requires someone to administer it. They've been kind of pushing that lately, but the other organizations, it's not that you have to use us or anything, but we're certainly available to do that. So just a couple of things that projects recently that we've got contracts for. Buckeye Rural Electric Cooperative in Gallia County got an ARC grant. We are on contract to help them manage that project, as well as the village of Colton in Jackson County. Under EDA, we have an administration contract to help Shawnee State University with their Cricker Innovation Hub project down in the city of Portsmouth. And then under HUD, the Community Development Block Grant contracts, we've recently assisted the village of Coal Grove and are in the midst of a contract with the village of Frankfort And we have more. I don't have these down. I didn't put them on there, but I can tell you this: we are kind of inundated at this point with contract management. My biggest fear right now is our ability to take on much more. So I will say at this point, it's not to say we won't do it, but we've got to really consider. I would rather do quality work than quantity. So certainly talk to us, talk to me, talk to Jessica or Kim about the potential for administration. But I do know we are pretty taxed out on it right now just because we're getting so many requests from people to help them with their grant. And we want to be helpful. But again, we want to do quality work for the ones that we can do that work for, more so than have do a meager job for several different groups. So we just wanted to let you know that we do offer that service to help you get through that grant that you receive, and to make sure that at the end of the day, you are not in a position where that federal agency or state agency is asking you to pay back money because you misspent funds in some way. That's our role, is to make sure you're doing everything by the book. We do have some special initiatives, and this is, I know it's got me up there. I'm not going to speak about all three of these, just the first one. And then Jessica will talk about tourism, and then Kim about the Employer Resource Network. Under broadband's been something OVRDC's been in tune about for, I guess, since about 2008 or 9. And we were involved heavily with a project that was $66 million U.S. Department of Commerce NTIA grant to Horizon Telephone back then to put a middle mile fiber backbone in our region throughout not just our counties, but 34 counties in Ohio. But it did encompass all of our region as well. And we recently got an EDA Cares Act grant. And one of the things we did under that grant was we hired a consulting group. They're out of Athens, Ohio, worked with them before, but they were competitively selected through our RFP process. And they're in the midst of looking and doing a study of our region and looking at broadband. They've really done more than just a study. This is something, it's like work in progress. They've helped with some of the applications that went in for the House Bill 2 money through the state of Ohio, which is the residential broadband program. They're working with some other entities on putting applications in for some of the federal money that's available. And we're hoping to keep them on contract beyond this EDA Cares Act grant, which ends end of June this year. To help us to continue not just plotting out and looking at what are areas served, and as some of the FCC RDOF awards are awarded and those entities begin putting more broadband into the region, keeping track of what areas are still unserved and keeping us abreast of that situation in the region. So we're involved in broadband, but what I can say is that we are definitely not the experts in that area. And that's one reason to have Reed Consulting Group on board, is they bring the expertise to talk broadband. I'm learning every day about broadband, but I would still not deem myself as an expert in the field. So it's good to have consultants like this. And as I said, they've done a great job for us, and we want to keep them on board just beyond this year to help us with carrying on that task into the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jessica to talk about the tourism.
Yeah, so under that same CARES Act, that non-competitive money that we receive from EDA, the complement to the broadband study is a tourism study. So if any of you guys are familiar with the Governor's Office of Appalachia and John Kerry back in January 2020, right before everything kind of went down in flames, GOA held a tourism summit at Lake Hope State Park. And it got us thinking and talking to some other tourism partners about how we could support economic development through tourism in their region. So we started to put together a power application. Everything happened with the coronavirus, and we dropped that because we were afraid, we wouldn't have matching funds with everything going on at such an uncertain time. But because of that, EDA came in and said, hey, we need you to do some recovery response work. And we thought, well, this is a perfect place to start our tourism work. So through those monies, we hired a consultant to do a study throughout our region. And since it is EDA, one big advantage that it has over Appalachia money is that we have been able to include Fayette County in that. So we are doing a region-wide study on tourism trends and place dynamics. Responded to that RFP. We brought them on board. So they're doing all that work using cell phone data and a lot of other metrics to track what the hot spots are in the region, and traveling patterns for people that come to visit, traveling patterns for people within the region who like to hit up certain spots. And they're still in the process of gathering that information. So we have an upcoming tourism summit with them on April 28th. We are trying to build partnerships and bring in more ideas. We see this as a big opportunity to share ideas and increase our tourism presence. And we want to know, what do you need? So if you are interested in participating in our tourism study and you want to come to the next summit with Place Dynamics, where they will be presenting some more of their findings and taking in more input from the locals, get a hold of me and I will make sure I put you on our tourism mailing list and get that information out to you. But we're really excited. We're hoping that with this data, we can move into some implementation to support businesses and develop assets within the region. And any tourism project that you have, this is just one more way that we can support it. So and we're really excited with all the tourism implementation opportunities that have come out recently with our funding partners. So I don't have much more to say on that, other than if you want to be involved in that, reach out.
Next up is Kim with the Employer Resource Network and the ARC Inspire Grant.
OVRDC applied for an Inspire grant. I think we actually applied late 2020 and we were awarded early last year. We partnered with the Ralston-Jackson-Benton Community Action for the grant. And the grant was to establish a Southern Ohio Employee Resource Network. And we just kicked off just a couple weeks ago. We met with the Ohio ERN and US ERN, and we visited Ross County and Jackson County and invited employers within the county to explain what the program is. We had a very good turnout. When we applied for this grant, the intention was for it to be a pilot program just to see if we could get the interest from the businesses and expand, and it was very well perceived. And we hope in the future to spread out, into the other counties. If anyone would like to discuss that, it's pretty in detail what that program is. And I do know that the US ERN and the Ohio, they have patents. So we hope to be that umbrella for the Southern Ohio ERN and offer this service to the businesses in our region. So I would encourage anyone, if you want to talk about it after this, just to give me a call. Or reach out to Megan in Jackson-Benton or Julie Boland. I think Julie is actually on here. Reach out to them if you know of a business that may be interested in participating. I know we do already have Valicio Foods in Jackson County. They were overly excited and ready to get on board the next day. So you see a company that big interested, you can see the benefit from it.
That's a great program. I'm excited about it. Any questions for Kim on that? And if you have any, we definitely have time later. I don't see anything in the chat box, so I guess we're going to move to the next section. We're doing good on time, you guys. We're at the 1 hour mark, so we're doing really good. Everyone's still with us. I want to say, should we stretch or move or just get ready? But we're up next is Stephanie Gilbert, the Transportation Planning Coordinator, and she's going to tell you more about how OVRDC is a regional transportation planning organization. Good morning, Steph.
Good Morning. Thank you, Gina. So RTPO stands for Regional Transportation Planning Organization. And in 2013, OVRDC was chosen as one of 5 organizations to participate in the RTPO pilot program. In 2016, January of 2016, Governor Kasich designated us as an official RTPO. And now there are 6 in the state. And you can see that in the map here. They are the green, blue, red, pink, orange, and yellow areas. So those areas are covered by regional planning organizations. Each year, we are required to provide a work program to Odot outlining the things that we're going to work on for that year. The list here on the screen shows some of the things that we do, and some of them I'm going to go into more detail. Promote and pursue funding is something that we do, trying to bridge that gap and make sure locals are aware of what funding is out there from FHWA, from ODOT, wherever they can fund transportation projects through. So that's something that we try to promote. We also participate in a lot of statewide planning. The Walk Bike Ohio plan, we were on that committee. We've worked on Access Ohio 2045, which is the state comprehensive transportation plan. We do a lot of public education and workshops, or at least pre-COVID, we did a lot of that, and hopefully we'll be getting back to that soon. And then providing assistance to transit agencies, mostly probably in the GIS arena, providing maps, providing data for them in some of the work that they need to do to continue to be eligible for funding. So the first thing that we were tasked with was creating a regional comprehensive transportation plan. And basically that looks at all of the counties that we serve. And let me just point out too that as the RTPO, we serve 10.5 counties. That half county is the rural part of Lawrence County that's not covered by the MPO Kiowa. So if you're in South Point or Ironton, we probably can't help you, but if you're out in the rural areas of Lawrence County, we can help you. And we also do not serve Clermont County, but the rest of the region we cover. We work with 3 different ODOT districts in our planning efforts. So every 5 years, we have to update this plan, and we just completed the last update in May of 2021, which is the 2045 Comprehensive Transportation Plan. And that plan can be found on our website. If you want to look at it, there will also be an executive summary of that plan coming out soon. So one of the things I didn't mention earlier that I wanted to talk a little more in detail about is our transportation plan and study program. So in 2018, we were looking for ways to be more engaged, to be more of an asset, not just creating plans and not really offering anything to the locals. So we came up with this idea to hire consultants. And we have 5 currently on contract that we can use to complete plans or studies for you. Right now, we are doing a $20,000 max contribution. If the study costs more than that, you would be responsible for covering anything over $20,000. Generally, our consultants know what we are willing to pay, and they can make the scope work in that budget and get you the information you need for that amount. So they're really good about that if it's possible. The studies have to be transportation focused and cannot include any engineering cost. And also they need to be located on a federal aid route unless it's a bike ped project, transit, safety, some kind of regional plan or non-highway freight. It can be other locations. It can be on local roads or wherever. So basically the outline or the process for this is we issue an RFP, request for proposal, usually once, maybe twice a year, depending on funding availability. So we issue that RFP you have about 30 days to submit a proposal. And then it takes us a couple weeks and we rank those proposals and pick the top, however many will fit into the funding that we have available. We then submit those proposals to our consultants. We send it out to all of them. And if that's something they're interested in, they will submit a scope to us along with a quote. We take all of the ones that we get for your particular project that you submitted and we give those to you to review. We feel like you know the projects, you know your needs better than we do. So we let you review those and give your input on which consultant you would like to complete that. Then we get board approval and we're able to enter into a task order and get those started usually pretty quickly. So here are some of the study areas, just ideas. It doesn't have to be one of these areas, but safety, active transportation, school travel plans, speed studies, economic impact studies, transit, just to name a few. There are more listed there. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about, so this is our list of studies that we had done through last summer. We've done a few more since then. It kind of gives you an idea of safety studies, access management, transit, speed studies, corridor studies. A couple things I want to point out is one thing that we also look at when we receive your proposal is there are a lot of ODOT programs that will fund these sort of things. So we look at your need and see if there is an ODOT program that might fit so that we could stretch our money further by using ODOT's money. So if you see here, on 2018 Scioto County, there was a County Road 503 safety and feasibility study that cost $46,000. ODOT has safety funds that they will do studies if your project is eligible. So at that time, we were doing $10,000 towards studies. So we put our $10,000 with it. ODOT put $32,000 and left Scioto County with $3,600 that they had to pay for this $46,000 study. So that is a great resource for us. Another one in Scioto County was 2019 for the active transportation plan. And this is one where the city wanted to do a school travel plan so that they could access safe routes to school funding. And when we reached out to ODOT, because they fund those sort of things when available, they said, hey, you know, we can do an active transportation plan for the whole county. And it will open the doors to a lot more funding than just doing the school travel plan. So we did that, and we worked closely with the county and with the consultant provided by ODOT, and it was a $47,000 study. Scioto County has already received, well, actually the city of Portsmouth has already received $400,000 for improvements around the school. And there are many more grant applications in the works right now on the city and county level because of that active transportation plan. So we're really leveraging a lot of dollars. Here it says 1.6 million. I'd say we're closer to $4 million at this point. The transit studies continue to leverage dollar year after year as the transit agencies apply for funding. So if anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to reach out. We just completed a round of RFPs and are in the process of choosing those projects. So I would say it'll probably be fall before we issue another one, just dependent upon what our availability of funding is. Next slide, please. Apologize for the lag. I think we're having some internet issues on moving the slides, but so we're very excited to announce our surface transportation block grant program. Since becoming an RTPO, it's been our goal to bring additional funding for projects to the area, and this is our first opportunity for that. This came through legislation. The biennial budget last year allocated $5.2 million to establish a regional transportation planning grant program for the RTPOs. ODOT took that allocation of money and broke it down based on how they are already giving us money for the planning grants. And we came out with the biggest chunk, which is great news for our region. We have $624,292 per year for fiscal year 22 and 23. So the funding is actually already available. It was available before we had a program. So we had to build that program. It took us about 6 or 7 months to develop the policies, the procedures, the scoring, and the application. That application went live on February 14th, and applications are due in our office March 25th by 3 p.m. And I do want to emphasize in our office, it has to be a hard copy, time stamped in our office by 3 p.m. on the 25th. We cannot accept email or digital submissions. Some of the things here, again, the projects need to be on a federal aid route, except for bike ped, transit, safety, or non-highway freight projects. Another thing is your project has to be listed on our comprehensive transportation plan, which is Appendix B, and we just updated that plan. We gave the opportunities in September, October, November, put calls out for people to submit projects in order to be eligible for this funding. So if you're not on the list, we don't know what the future holds for this funding. It's going to be up to legislators, but if it continues, we will be updating this list on a biannual basis with the STIP cycle. So if you're not on the list, reach out to us and we can try to get you on the list for next time if there's more funding. This funding is on a reimbursement basis and requires 10% local match, and the maximum award is $150,000. That stuff could change. This is the first round. This is brand new, and we're kind of feeling our way through it. And so there may be changes to the program as it moves forward, as our transportation committee sees fit. Next slide, please. Another thing that we do here is assist ODOT with the statewide transportation improvement program. And this is basically ODOT's 4-year planning document that's required, and it identifies all the state and local transportation, federal highway or federal transit funded projects, as well as state funded projects scheduled for some phase of implementation during the 4-year period of the STIP. So in that process, we assist ODOT by conducting rural consultation, which will be in the fall of this year. It's an invitation only meeting with elected officials. So you'll receive something in the mail when that meeting is. And it's basically for public officials to take the first look at the projects that ODOT has slated for the next 4 years. And that's very important. We found out last time, because if you are planning on in your village or city replacing some culvert or some bridge, and then you look and see, oh, ODOT's planning to repave through there, you want to make sure you coordinate with them and we're not replacing that right after they repave. So it's really important for that sort of coordination of projects. And then in the spring of next year, we will be conducting public meetings on this, again, presenting to the public the projects that are on the list and looking for feedback from them. We are also responsible for creating a regional transportation improvement program, which is basically just taking out of the statewide one our chunk, that are the projects in our region, and kind of putting it in a smaller document that's more easy to read for people in our area. So that's what we do with that one. Next slide, please. Some other things we do are placing bike and pedestrian counters. We currently have 3 permanent infrared trail counters on the Paint Creek Recreational Trail in Ross and Fayette counties, and we're getting ready to install 5 more there as they need some additional information. We also have 2 counters available that we can put out as needed if you want to track counts on a sidewalk or a trail or anywhere people are biking and walking. We can do that for you, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, whatever data you're needing. Reach out to us and we can put those out there. We'll collect the data and provide it to you in a usable manner. Maybe you need that documentation for a grant application or just general knowledge to make decisions and planning. So, and then other services, each year we're submitting, like I said, a work program. So it's great to reach out to us. Maybe you have some other idea of something transportation related that you need help with. Reach out to us, discuss those needs with our staff. If we're not already doing it, we can always maybe put it in the next work program. It's always great for us to have new ideas of ways we can assist. And I believe Gina put the links in for the things that I discussed, links to our website for more information.
Stephanie, thank you so much. Before we move on, though, I wanted to just ask your opinion and get your view of, a lot of times for your program, we do a public participation. We send out things we request feedback on. Would you talk just a little bit to this audience about how important that is?
It's very important. I mean, especially like the long range transportation plan, we had a lot of public meetings. We asked for feedback. We do surveys. We did those virtually, and we did paper copies in the local libraries to try to get them in people's hands to make sure we were reaching underserved populations. But, we take that stuff very seriously. We base all of our planning on that. If people are not saying, hey, the roads are falling apart and we really need preservation, and that's our main concern, then the dollars may not be spent there. The dollars may be spent building trails because that's what somebody else thinks that did express their concern. So it's very important because it really dictates where the money goes.
Exactly. Thank you so much, because that's one thing you and I have talked about. How do we get more participation and feedback from our region on these plans and where the dollars go? So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we are going to talk again with Jacob Taylor about GIS and data. He's going to educate me on what GIS is. Thanks, Jacob.
Hello, I'm back. OVRDC has GIS and data availability. GIS being Geographic Information Systems. We do a lot of data requests every year. The biggest part of our requests are usually map making. And then we also do data collection in terms of, I do the trail counts and things for that Stephanie was mentioning, but also other types of data that are needed. We'll cover some of those later on. General statistics of stuff, calculating percentages and population numbers, and then we also do this plans based on the data that are gathered. So we have a lot of availability in map making. I think I have another couple. I think I have another map in here, but here's the first one I picked, which was we did an update to the Adams County tourism map. As you can see, we have put a lot of points on the map, which were requested by the county. They sent us a list in, and then we went through and placed those markers at those locations. And we can do maps in a lot of different styles. We can cover a lot of different information on those. We work on like having done a federal aid route map for the usage of the Regional Transportation Program, and I'm working on a Brown County recycling map. So map making can be all kinds. It could be from basic, show us which routes are getting the most traffic, to a tourism map. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, we do data collection. This data collection could be a number of different things. We have the ability to do some average annual daily traffic, some traffic counts digitally. We have access to a street light tool is what it's called. And that tool allows us to track or to use cell phone data that is aggregated, and then we can estimate with pretty high accuracy. ODOT has used it in comparison to their own surveys to figure out numbers of people traveling to a certain area. And we can also do a lot with the census and those kind of statistics, which I think are covered in the next slide. Next slide, please. Statistics, which is very similar, I guess, in a way to data collection. So, but the census, a lot is done with the census, but also other federal and statewide data sets. And we do computations, basically, calculations related to those. We're just finding that information for people as they need it. We got a lot of these, and like this example right here is just kind of a graph showing different changes in the census count versus the estimate. American Community Survey publishes estimates every year. We do the census every 10 years. So in this case, we saw a big difference in what the 2010 estimate was, according to the American Community Survey, as compared to what the actual count was in the 2010 count for two of the selected counties. While those are the various types of data we can kind of collect and send for people, and of which we can do either for the sake of gathering that data itself, or for the use of planning purposes. The GIS department does other sort of planning and other assistances. We work on, amongst the other things related here, transit plan updates and site maps. We're doing pedestrian counts through the Regional Transportation Program. We've also done trail data collection, which maps actual routes. Which we did via a phone app, and usage of members of the public. We've done plans for land use and kind of analysis there. And we also have a high accuracy GPS unit that we can use to collect point and line data and in GIS, so that you for infrastructure purposes, infrastructure being usually water and sewer points like manholes and hydrants, but it could be used for other purposes that might need to be mapped that way.
No questions in the chat box yet for that, Jacob. And once again, anybody that has questions, we're happy to get to that point at the end of this and answer any questions or talk with you about whatever's on your mind on this information. So next up, and we're down to the very last, is Stephanie again. Stephanie Gilbert, Transportation Planning Coordinator, to talk about revolving loan funds.
Yes. So many years ago, grants were received to establish a small business lending program. And basically we loan that money out and then it's paid back, and that happens over and over and over again. And that's where you get the term revolving from. We have three sources for our RLF programs. We have ARC, EDA, and USDA. We actually have two separate EDA ones now, thanks to the CARES Act. So there's not a lot of money available right now, but there is some. So if you have a small business that you know of that is needing funding, you can always have them reach out to me and discuss their options. We are in the business of helping businesses. We're not a bank. We're not trying to make money. So if our program is not right for them, we have lots of resources that I can direct them in different ways. If they're just getting started and they don't have a business plan and they need help, we can direct them to the Small Business Development Center. So even if we can't help them, we have a lot of resources and a lot of people that we can refer them to. Next slide, please. So eligible applicants, private for-profit businesses located in our member counties, any of the 12 counties. There's no limits on that based on where they're at. So next slide, please. Eligible projects, the fixed asset loans and working capital loans are the main things that we do. You know, if they want to acquire an existing business, real estate, machinery, equipment, or if they just need money for day-to-day lending or day-to-day operations. We've done a lot of that through COVID and through that CARES Act, EDA CARES Act program that we have. We've done a lot of working capital loans just to help business survive, you know, when they can't operate at full capacity or they need extra supplies because of COVID. So if you know anyone with those kind of needs, for sure, have them reach out. We cannot do speculative activities. We can't do 100% financing, and we cannot subsidize interest payments they have on existing loans. So those are all ineligible. Next slide, please. So the terms and rates, fixed asset loans, generally 5 to 20 years. You know, if they're purchasing real estate, it's going to be more on the 20-year side. If they're purchasing equipment, it's going to be based on the useful life of that collateral. Working capital loans, generally 3 to 5 years, you know, and we look at the amount of loan, we look at the needs of the business. It's not always the best credit score or the most profitable business. We are in the business of helping businesses survive. So we look at a lot of different things. It's not just, oh, you have to have this credit score, or, oh, you have to have this or that. I mean, everyone is eligible, and we will look at every business individually. Interest varies based on the project and credit worthiness. For the last couple of years, rates have been at 2%. The highest I have seen them is 4%. And we generally look also at what the bank is doing. If there's a bank involved, which pre-COVID, there was always a bank involved. Since COVID, sometimes we can get away without a bank. But we generally look at what the bank is doing and either meet their credit or their interest rate, or we go lower. Whatever, again, is in the best interest of the business. Our maximum loan request is $300,000. That is a little flexible. We have done some larger loans, and that is at the discretion of our loan review committee. We do normally have a private lender required. Basically, what that means is we are gap financing. If the business needs $300,000 and the bank is willing to do $200,000, the business still needs $100,000. We can come in and fill in that gap. That is where we function most of the time. We do require 10% owner's equity. Doesn't have to be cash. They could have inventory. They could have, you know, equity in their business. Again, we're very flexible and we work really hard to meet the needs of the business. We do require job creation, one full-time job created for every $35,000 borrowed. So if they need $70,000 borrowed or $70,000, then we're going to need to show that they're creating 2 jobs. We do require collateral to cover the value of the loan. We can get creative with that. If there's no collateral in their business, maybe we can take a second mortgage on their house. Maybe we can, take the title to their car. Again, whatever to try to help them. And there is a $500 non-refundable application fee. We don't take applications until we've talked to the person and that we're, pretty sure that they're eligible and that the loan review committee is going to like the loan. Again, we don't want to take their money if we can't help them. And that money is just to cover the cost of, employees getting the loan ready. So does anyone have any questions?
So at this point, we're at the end of our presentation and the beginning of the questions and discussion. So John, any thoughts?
No, just I appreciate all the staff doing the part that they did this morning to give an overview, nice overview of the programs they manage here at the office. Certainly, as Gina just asked, we don't want to cut off people if there are still questions that you have about the programs. And I know we threw a lot of information at you today. We are involved in a lot of different things. And I think sometimes people are amazed at all the things we do and get involved in. I don't know that I've ever said this in trying to explain our programs, but for those of you out there listening, I'm sure people ask you at times, what is it that you do in your career? And I think all of us here at OVRDC struggle with trying to tell our friends and citizens that surround us exactly what we do every day, because it's very diverse, as you can see. It's difficult to try to say and put what we do into one nutshell and say we do this. So, and part of that's just because we're a unique agency, being regional. We're unique in that we're involved in everything from economic and community development to transportation planning. We do business loans. We're in very many corners, as you saw today. So I would certainly open it back up to questions real quick here, and then I would like to just introduce some of our support staff that are on here as well. Are there any other questions for me or any of the staff that you heard from this morning?
I don't see any questions in our chat box.
I don't hear anyone speaking up. We must have answered everybody's questions. You know how to get hold of us. Our website, you can find us on there. All the staff are listed, and we certainly, you probably will walk away from here and think of something. So do not hesitate to contact us. And I hope you did learn more about us. I did want to introduce Juanita Bragg. Juanita, if you could identify yourself or show yourself and say hello.
She's on the phone.
Hello, I am Finance Director for OVRDC.
Thank you, Juanita. Juanita keeps our finances straight here. And we have received, and I lose track, I think 8 years in a row, the Auditor of State Award. And through her work, as well as Carrie Richardson, who's our bookkeeper and administrative assistant, they do a great job keeping our finances straight here, and I appreciate that. They make my job easier doing that. So, and I mentioned her. Carrie, you want to introduce yourself?
Everyone, I'm Carrie Richardson, administrative assistant and bookkeeper, as John said. I'm the one who normally answers the phone, so it's good to see everybody.
And Carrie's the controller of the Zoom today. She puts these together and knows how to navigate through the system to try to keep it so that everybody can get online and we don't get Zoom bombed or anything like that. So we appreciate that, Carrie. And her cohort in crime on that is Shannon Nichols. Shannon, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shannon Nichols, OVRDC Program Secretary.
All right, thank you, Shannon. Shannon helps a lot with that same stuff. So we appreciate them. And you met Gina, who kind of emceed this event. I asked her to do that. She's our public information coordinator. Gina, thank you for doing that, and also for getting out. So we have our e-newsletter, a lot of stuff that you see on Facebook, anything published here. We have Gina work with the staff to put that together, and she pretties up what the work that we do, and we appreciate that. So if there are no other questions, we will be adjourned. But we certainly appreciate your time again, as I said, and hope you learn more about OVRDC, especially if any of you are new to the program. And hopefully, even if you guys, I see some people on here that are pretty well seasoned with our organization, but maybe there was something you learned. So I hope it was worth your time this morning. So with that, we will say have a good day. Give us a call if you need any help.